Mais comment ils ont le film, mais vraiment aujourd'hui, on ne trompe plus personne. Hein?
Good morning. This is a historic conversation that we're going to be having with Dr. Theophile Obenga, foremost expert in the world on Dynastic Kemet and one of the best historians in the world in general, a man of multidimensional talents. The program today is going to be covering the relationships between Dr. Theophile Obenga and the great scholar, Dr. Cheikh Anta Diop. We're going to be looking at Dr. Obenga's unique contribution to African scholarship. And we'll be looking at how African history, especially Kemet, but African history in general, provides models for us knowing ourselves, loving ourselves, and building power in the world for African people, just power. Welcome, Dr. Obenga. How are you doing?
I'm very well, Dr. T'Shaka. Thank you.
Dr. Obenga is a buddy. He taught at San Francisco State for 12 years. We'll go into that in a minute, but I want to introduce him. Before doing that, I want to remind people to subscribe to this show, hit the subscribers button. And also, if you're interested in the sixfold stages to mental freedom, send it to me on my email address, otashaka@sbcglobal.net. Now, I want to introduce my guests. Some of the viewers don't really need an introduction because they've been saying, I want Obenga. And in fact, I had a brother from South Africa send a message when the show couldn't go on last week. And he said, we want Obenga from South Africa. So I know many of you know who Dr. Theophile Obenga is, but some of you do not. And even those of you who do, you need to be able to put him in historical perspective. Dr. Theophile Obenga is from Congo, Brazzaville. He had a great mother and father, and he got gifts from each of them. The gift of linguistics from his mother, brilliance from his father, and brilliance from his mother. Dr. Theophile Obenga was Cheikh Anta Diop, who we will get into in the show, best apprentice. Dr. Obenga was Cheikh Anta Diop's best apprentice and went on to become a giant in scholarship in his own right. Now, Dr. Obenga has a very beautiful title for Cheikh Anta Diop. He calls him Osiris Diop, Osiris Diop. I thought that was very fitting because Osar or Osiris was the first pharaoh of Kemet, pre-dynastic Kemet, and he was a real person that existed. And Cheikh Anta Diop pointed out his head has been found in Obidos, in a jar, that he was a real human being. And so to call Cheikh Anta Diop Osiris Diop is fitting because Asar or Osiris is the first pharaoh of ancient Kemet, the founder of Kemetic civilization in the so-called pre-dynastic period. And so to call Cheikh Anta Diop Asar Diop is appropriate because he is the leader of the movement around ancient Kemet as the central civilization in the world and the world's greatest civilization, and is a Black civilization. So this is appropriate. And so then Dr. Theophile Obenga is Dr. Cheikh Anta Diop's best apprentice, now master in his own right, and was a growing intellectual force when he began to work under Cheikh Anta Diop. So how do we describe Dr. Obenga? Now, he is a very modest and humble person. He would never say this, but I would, and anyone who's thought about it would agree. Asar was an Anu person, A-N-U. And when Dr. Obenga did the translation of Medu-Neter, the great one in Kemet, the great ones who founded pre-dynastic Kemet, when he did it for me for the integration trap, he noted that by the registers of the pre-dynastic Kemites, vertical registers, it meant great ones. And Asar was a great one. So who is Dr. Obenga? Dr. Obenga is a great one. He is a great one because of his achievements and because of his good character. And I know him well, and he's a good human being. And I think that's the most important thing we say about anyone. And he's a great one because of his great scholarship, because of his great intellectual work on behalf of African people and humanity. And he's an innovative, I would describe him, because last week I went through the mastery systems of Africa to prepare you for this discussion. He would be considered a grand master in the African educational or apprenticeship system, as was the master before him, Cheikh Anta Diop. And when we say he's a great one, what do we mean? In the world, no one stands above Theophile Obenga on dynastic Kemet, and no one stands above him on the interrelationships of Kemet to African civilization. And I might say, as someone who interacted with him for over 12 years and then knew him before, he has very perceptive insights on African American culture, very perceptive, so that his scope and his depth is what distinguishes him, but no one in the world can touch him on his intellectual achievements around ancient Egypt and African civilization. Dr. Obenga, the last time we talked, told me he had written 17 books. I know that he's finishing a 1,000-page book that he's already written, but he's a perfectionist. He's still doing the fine tuning on the pharaohs, which would make it 18, and there may be more. He's a linguist, and he speaks 10 languages. This makes him a distinguished scholar because he's able to get into the thoughts of the civilizations that he examines, starting with Kemet and other African civilizations, as well as reading Greek and Latin. So he's able to get into the text of European so-called classical scholarship. So as a scholar, he's a master who has no peers, and I'm sure that Cheikh Anta Diop looks down in heaven and smiles at his good work. So, Dr. Obenga, is there anything you'd like to add to this? Can you share the screen, Senator?
It appears his video feed is not working. Can he speak? Let me try to.
Yeah, okay. We're working on Dr. Obenga's video feed and keep him up from now on so that he's on the screen and we're not focusing on one person.
I'm going to unmute him if I can. Hold on. For some reason, he's muted, and I don't know why. I'm going to ask him to unmute himself.
Dr. Obenga, ask your computer person to unmute you.
Yeah, because his video and his audio are muted right now.
Do you want me to hit this share screen thing here?
I'll go ahead and share the screen regards the institution that he's developed. I'll do that right now.
No. Share the screen with him. We'll do that later. Put him on.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah.
He's come back.
Yeah, leave him on there. Dr. Obenga, can you hear me?
Yes, I do.
Okay, fine. I just introduced you. Did you hear the introduction?
Yes, I heard. It was a wonderful introduction indeed.
Deserved, brother. You hear me? This is one beautiful brother, you know? And in fact, I didn't introduce him well enough. There's much more that could be said, you know?
No, yes. We touched me deeply. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Dr. Obinga and I met early on through ASCAT, the Association for the Study of Classical African Civilization. And I had the pleasure of sitting and listening to his wisdom. And so there were many years where we both presented at ASCAT. I was leading the National Black United Front's campaign around African-centered education, and we were fighting to get African-centered education centered around Kemet in the public school systems. But then I was working also in ASCAT. So I got a chance to see his work and his brilliance. And then in 1998, I attended a conference of ASCAT in New York. And at first I felt it was a waste of my time because I thought I was going to be presenting. They had me doing a workshop, but this is destiny. And there was a reason for me being in New York. There were two reasons. One is Professor John Henry Clark was near dying, and he had requested that I come and see him. Well, I was going to come and see him anyway. I'd been interviewing him for 8 months on my book on Seba. And so I went to see him. The night before, Leonard Jeffries had me to dinner with Marcus Garvey's son. And at this dinner, he said, Dr. Theophile Obenga is looking for a job. I saw you at the conference in '98 in New York, and I didn't know. I said, oh, so then we go to see John Henry Clark, and I did about a 5-hour interview with him. So the first thing I asked him was, I said, what do you think? Now, you know, this is kind of like asking the physics department, should you hire Einstein? I said, what do you think? Should we hire Obenga? Because he's my eldest, so I have consulted him. I knew what he's going to say. He said, of course, if he wants to come. So I got on the phone and called Dr. Wade Nobles. He was then acting chair. I had chaired for 12 years before. I was now in charge of the hiring committee, and everybody had been pressuring me to hire. And I said, no, I don't see anybody that's worth hiring. So I called Wade up and I said, hey, Wade, Obenga's looking for a job. And I started giving all the reasons why we should bring you in and hire. He said, I don't need any reasons. Get him out here. And so 2 weeks later, Obenga flies in and stays at my house for a couple of hours. And then we interview him. Now, here's the thing. When you hire somebody like Theophile Obenga, Dr. Theophile Obenga, it should be a direct hire because this is the outstanding scholar in his field. Harvard wouldn't hire him because they're afraid of him, because he would challenge their paradigm. Ain't nobody up there that could beat him on it. So we had to bring in other candidates to interview, which was an insult, but we did it. And then we hired Dr. Obenga. And then for 4 months, he stayed at my house. So you can't see it, but there's a desk behind me. And at night, Dr. Obinga would have his typewriter and he was typing, I think, on the book on the pharaohs. And I was at this computer typing on the book that I'm working on now. So I got to see his discipline habits. This brother is real discipline. And then we got to see him interact with students. And he would go into the community and do community teaching and nurture his students. And we got to see his masterworks. I have files of Obenga's course outlines, his lectures, and the book I'm working on now on Seba owes a lot to Dr. Obenga, you know? So, and then we had the honor to participate with him at the African Scholars Conference in Senegal in 2004. And I do believe that Obenga played a role in having them pick me to chair the seminar on Pan-Africanism. I do believe he played a role in that. So it's been a real pleasure to work with you, Obenga, and to get to know you, and I consider you a part of my family.
Yes, of course, indeed. Yes, I stay with you. Beautiful house. We discuss every night, many problems, and you invite me to a restaurant. I did not San Francisco. You bring me to San Francisco, beautiful hotel, restaurant, something like that. It was really not only scholarship, friendship, it was family, a relationship, I believe, too. Thanks so much for that. It was
And I
a
think
beautiful stay. I didn't believe that I was in a foreign, strange country. It was my family. With you, Wade, Obogo, all these people, it was very family.
Yeah. In fact, after this interview, I'm going to give Wabogo, Vululela Wabogo, a call and let him know that we did this show. I was so busy yesterday, I couldn't call him. Vululela is the brother that helped me with the sixfold stages to mental freedom and taught at San Francisco State. So yeah, this has been the real pleasure, is working with you, seeing your work and learning from you. Before getting into the general discussion, when you retired from San Francisco State, you could have stayed in the West, you could have stayed in the US or wherever else. You went back home to Congo, Brazzaville. Why did you go back home?
But when I went back home, my main idea was to try to bring politician in Congo, chiefly the president of the state, to build a new university, a very good university, strong for the new generation. They need knowledge now. So let's build a huge university with our own funds, Congolese funds. So it will be nice for us to leave this kind of university for the future, for the African people, African young. So we need to do that. It is very crucial to build a university. So the president of Congo accept, and then we try to build. Now it's all not finished completely, but you have people can start to study there, to teach, to do their work, to do research. We start already, so it's a pleasure to see this kind of things in my life. It was a beautiful project.
Yeah, Dr. Obenga could have stayed and been comfortable somewhere else. He went back home, as he just said, to get the president of the Congo to support political leadership in his country, Congo Brazzaville, to support the building of an African university. And this has been the dream also of Africans in this country. We have Black colleges, but to have an African university that has a central focus on African thought, as well as all the disciplines. So this was a great achievement. And Dr. Obenga achieved this along with all of his intellectual work. So we want to show right now film on the opening of the university. It will be in French, and then Dr. Obenga will explain the ceremony and what's going on. Senavar, you could put that up.
Je vais mettre le film maintenant.
And what you're going to see here is beautiful because it's showing you what Africans can do. And this, here we go. He's working on it. It'll be up there in a minute.
Aux côtés de ses homologues du Niger, du Sénégal et de la Guinée-Bissau, le président de la République, Denis Sassou Nguesso, a procédé à la coupure du ruban symbolique marquant l'ouverture officielle de l'université qui porte son nom. Peu de temps après le dévoilement de la plaque irrelative, le chef de l'État a exhorté la première promotion d'étudiants à faire rayonner l'UDSN, un établissement d'enseignement supérieur à vocation panafricaine.
Cette université n'est pas seulement l'université des jeunes congolais. C'est une université panafricaine. Vous aurez à recevoir ici les étudiants qui viendraient de toute l'Afrique.
Entrés par voie de concours, 600 étudiants se sentent honorés d'étudier dans cette nouvelle alma mater congolaise qui débute avec 2 instituts. Le premier concerne les sciences géographiques, environnementales et aménagement, ISSGEA, et le second, architecture, urbanisme, bâtiments et travaux publics, ISAUBTP.
Nous sommes tous conscients et nous allons donner le meilleur de nous-mêmes pour aller de l'avant et pour être, je peux dire, des lumières pour cette école, des élites de demain.
Devant les 4 chefs d'État présents et autres autorités nationales et étrangères, le président du comité de direction de l'UDSN, le professeur Theophile Obenga, a rappelé l'esprit de ce cadre éducatif.
La grande contrainte de cette université de Denis Sassou Nguesso est de contribuer valeureusement à l'avènement de l'Afrique des Lumières sur le chemin d'avenir qui n'est autre que le chemin de la modernité.
Selon le gouvernement représenté par le ministre en charge des grands travaux, Jean-Jacques Bouya, la construction de ce complexe universitaire qui disposera entre autres de 53 bâtiments et une capacité d'hébergement de 15 000 étudiants nécessite une somme globale de plus de 241 milliards de francs CFA, dont 110 milliards déjà perçus par l'entreprise Unicon. Il est important de rappeler que l'université Denis Sassou Nguesso a démarré ses activités académiques ce 5 février 2021, 50 ans après celle de l'université Maringouabi.
Beautiful. Dr. Obenga, could you explain more about that ceremony? What was going on, what you had to say? There was a brief description of that, what the university is about.
Il a pris le pouvoir par un coup d'État le 4 août 1983.
Yeah, it was a beautiful opening ceremony with the president of the state, chief of state of Senegal, Mali, and Guinea-Bissau, and the president of Congo himself. It was a beautiful ceremony. So the president recalled that this university is not just for Congolese people, it is for Pan-African university, for all youth of the continent. They must come here and to study freely. And so they ask one student, say, yes, we agree on that idea. We must do everything we can, discipline, work. So we must bring light in this, on this campus, bring light. And the president, the minister of construction said that we did almost, we must do again to build the university to finish, because it's a lot, it's a very huge university. So we need more money, more work to do, so we can achieve the 50,000 students, something like that. So, and we did that 50 years after the first university left by the French colonization. That's the University of Mariangouabi. So now we have 2 universities, University Mariangouabi, built by the French people, and now French government. And now we have the Denis Sassou Nguesso University built by Congolese themselves with their own funds. So that's make that we make progress. We make a lot of progress to have at least 2 huge universities for the African people, for African youth. So it was a beautiful job.
What are some of the subjects that are covered in the university?
to do, I believe. It's my conviction, so we did well, I believe. This is my comment. Did you hear me?
Obenga, what are some of the subjects that the university covers? What fields?
We have the field of geography, environment, nature, something like management. The government study our climate, environment, all these things. At the same time, we need to build a new village, a new city, so we need architecture, urbanist, something like that, and engineer of construction work, construction, architecture. And we have a lot of forest here, so we need the people. We do language, sociology, language, something like that. So we deal with the reality, with the development. We deal with problems. So when we finish your school, you have immediately a job. You can work in engineering.
Obenga, can you hear me? Cinnabar, can you hear me?
I hear you fine. He's just having temporary difficulty. We have to wait for his signal to reestablish itself. And he'll be back on shortly. He's going to reestablish himself.
This is a great achievement, Dr. Obenga.
Yes.
Yeah, there was a little transmission problem. Keep going.
No, I say that this university is a kind of up-to-date university, because when we finish, you can have a immediately job, because you deal with management of the territory, geography, forestry, civil engineering, something like that. So it's not just to teach sociology for teaching abstraction like we used to do with university, French universities or Western university. It's more, not just technology, it's more dealing with more African problems, try to solve them with the new generation. So it's not very abstraction, it's a more concrete university fitting, I believe, with our reality. So it's very helpful university for that. And then we must finish all the buildings, because it's a huge university. Even we plan also to do some astrophysics, because this time is nice to see people from the sky, like forest, something like that, forest, not to see just from the ground. So this is why we try to build also in the future astrophysics institute.
And I could imagine that's gonna be named for. I could guess.
Yeah.
That's good. I hope people get the point that this university has been created to help build up Africa. It's practical.
Yes.
So it's going to help in the things that Africa needs, mastering its geography, its forests, and especially, and you're really to be commended for this, Obinga, because it shows your love for African people, but especially our youth, that this is for the youth and they need this. So this is a monumental achievement on behalf of your president and on behalf of you, your vision. I would imagine that.
You remember that we talked about that a long time in the United States with you, with Dr. Wade, Wobogo. We need this kind of new university with a new vision. It doesn't come just like that. It came from our discussion, from ASCAC, something like that, with Jeffries, Dr. Small, all these people, you see, with John-Henri Clark himself too. We try to, this idea was a talk among us. So I keep that in my mind, and it was growing, and I try to make more concrete with my contribution. So it's all of us, I will say. Yes, is our own school, I will say, our thought.
Yeah. So what Dr. Obenga is saying is this is a Pan-African conception that Africans around the world, and he listed Dr. Leonard Jeffries, Professor Smalls, Wade Nobles, especially Dr. Jacob Carruthers. This was a passion for him, the African University. And Obenga's being humble. This was his idea all along, because I know that his orientation. And I imagine that you are concerned about seeing that it has an African-centered focus.
Yes, it must be African focus, because when we have in China, they do University Shanghai, something like that, is with Chinese focus. Even in Russia, Europe, in the United States, always, you do university for your own future, what you want in the future, for what you do university. We build African university for African people. We need knowledge now, we need scholarship, we need all these things. You can build Africa. Now is necessary to master knowledge, to know many things in order to give to Africa, to build a new condition of life, to build a new condition of existence, something like that. So we need to equip our young with scholarship, very strong scholarship, so they will be not afraid of somebody, so we can even dialogue in the world with no complex, something like that. So it was a kind of a liberation, intellectual or mental liberation for us.
That's very important. Dr. Obenga is saying that this is a university that has to be geared around African orientation, African mentality. The Chinese build one with a Chinese orientation. The Europeans build one with the European orientation. Too often, Blacks will end up building one that's Black on the outside and white on the inside. And Obenga is saying it's going to be African on the outside and African on the inside, so that we can have intellectual freedom, intellectual independence. And this is really a part of true freedom. So congratulations to you, to your president, to the people of Congo, Brazzaville, and Dr. Obenga shared this with me. This university was built on the resources of the Congolese people, Congolese government. They came up with this money. This was not something that was brought in from the outside. And I don't know if you know what that means. It costs a lot of money to build a university and a lot more money to keep it going. So this was a big deal, but it had a big vision. Thank you, Obenga. Beautiful.
Excellent. Yes, it was like that indeed, yes.
Now let's get into the central topic, which this is, because you're building, and that's the most important thing, that our ideas come into being through reality. And you brought a big idea into being, the African University. So Dr. Cheikh Anta Diop and you, but especially Dr. Cheikh Anta Diop, put forward the notion that Egypt or Kemet is to Africa what Greece was to Europe and still is. That it's the central civilization around which African societies and civilizations are built. My question to you is, how does this model of ancient Kemet and the civilizations that it came out of and that it influenced, how does that help us, African people in Africa and around the world, to build just power for our people so that our people can live in prosperity?
Yes, also, Dr. T'Shaka, it's a question of legacy, of heritage. You know, we know that the first universities in the Western civilization were built in Spain by what they call Moors. The first university, it was made by African people and Arabs. So now, when Western civilization know that this, what they're teaching them is their own ancestor, is a Greek business, so they try to go by themselves back to the Greek civilization, go by themselves. And who did that first? It was Italian people. So they call that the Renaissance. Renaissance to go back by themselves to Greek and Roman civilization. And from there, they make in Europe huge revolution called Renaissance, European Renaissance for all of them. So all European people from West, from East, from Center, all of them, they say that Greek and Roman antiquity belong to us as our ancestry. Now is the foundation of our humanity, of our humanism, our humanity. So they try to teach that to everywhere in Europe as the foundation of their education, of their life, of their civilization, of their philosophy, their vision of the world. They did that, you see. So they didn't, everybody did that. Even the United States came to Europe, they go back always to the Greek and Roman antiquity. Chinese have their own antiquity too. They're modern, they go to space, they have everything, but still they go back to Confucius, something Lao Tse, something like that. And Europe also go there, but we African people, we can build not, on Chinese antiquity. We don't know them very well. They're not our ancestors. It's difficult for us to build on a Western civilization. Although we know well, we can know Greek, we can know Latin, but it's not our ancestors, it's not our legacy. So it's difficult to build from there. So we have our own legacy. It's African history. Kemet is built by African people, by Black people. So it belongs to us. Why we didn't know that before? Because of colonization. Because when you make somebody slave, you make colonize somebody, you don't give him any kind of civilization. You deny even his humanity. He's not a human being because he has no right. So something like that. It was like that our situation. Thanks to Cheikh Anta Diop, we know our antiquity, we know our legacy, we know our past, our ancestry. So we try to know more and more and try to build our humanity in our vision, our basic values on our own legacy. And this legacy, of course, belongs to the world. Like Chinese legacy belongs to the world. We teach Confucius, we know Confucius. Like Western civilization, they have a Greek and Rome. We know that also, but it's their ancestor, although we know it doesn't belong to us. Now we have our own civilization. We must know that it takes time because they didn't, they keep us away from that. So we must do that anyhow. And thanks to Cheikh Anta Diop, we bring that back to build our historical consciousness. We must have our own historical consciousness, and to make progress, you need your own historical consciousness. That means your own values, your vision, and of course, we take profit from outside also. We are human beings. We take is good everywhere, but you must have your own civilization that belongs also to the world. We are not to make contribution to the world. And Kemet make a lot of contribution. He give the first knowledge to the Thales. He's the first Greek scholar. He was a student in Kemet. All of them were there, even Pythagoras. He was a student in Kemet. Moses, he was a student. We give them knowledge. So they went back to their country to do what they want to do. It was the same. It's not a kind of, it's not a sin. It's not a mistake to know your own ancestry and we are not against somebody. We must do that. Everybody, everywhere they do that. They do like that everywhere. Now, when we do Africa, they say, oh, no, you don't do that. It's no good because they want all to be under them always. We must be under somebody. We must be the slave of somebody. We must be colonized. They want that is instinctive. The violence, historical violence is instinctive to the Western civilization. They want to destroy everything. Since Homer, with Iliad and the Odysseus, with Julius Caesar, and they destroy the world with Roman military business, and even Napoleon destroyed Europe. And now recently was Hitler who destroyed Europe also. They live on destruction. These people, Western civilization, live on destruction. So we don't need this kind of humanity. We must go back to our own values and try to say, look, the humanity is not guided only by Western civilization. We must bring also They want to read no Chinese, no Black, no African people in this world. It must be Western civilization, American civilization, white civilization. We don't like Chinese, no Chinese, the African people. We don't like them. They might disappear. It's not like that. We are, all of us, we belong to humanity. So we must be more tolerant and accept all kind of humanity, because we make contribution too. The Chinese, they make contribution. They bring writing, paper, something like even guns too. So everybody bring civilization. They want to destroy, to make an Amazon, like they did for Indian people, to put them in desert. Which kind of democracy? You help some people and you want to put them in a reserve. You destroy them. They're not scholar. They don't vote in election. Nothing for them because they stay to park them like in animals. No, we don't like this kind of civilization. We must respect every people in the world. This is our goal. And Western has a vision of destruction. We don't have this kind of vision of destruction. You see?
Just to be sure that people understood what Dr. Obenga is saying, I'll summarize and then make some comments. He's making the point that Kemet or Egypt is central to Africa as Greece and Rome were to Europe. He makes the point that with the Moors in Spain, 711 AD, when Tariq bin Ziyad conquers Spain under Black leadership, and then the Arabs come in as well, they draw on Greek thinking. And this spurs the Renaissance in Europe. And this Renaissance, built around Greek and Rome as models, served as a foundation for revitalizing Europe, especially after the fall of the Roman Empire. And then he's making the point that the Chinese have their own civilizational model under Confucius and Lao Tzu. And I should point out in pieces, because the Chinese don't have this whole model the way it was 221 BC when they unified. But they have elements, and under these elements, 1,400,000,000 Chinese are unified. 100, maybe 200 old or elder Chinese men run 1,400,000,000 people, but they have their model. And he's making the point that Africans have to build our civilization on our model, and that Kemet is the central model. And I should add, the greatest achievement in the history of world civilization. No civilization achieved what the Kemetic civilization achieved, none. And so why would we not draw on the world's greatest model for civilization that suited us, because it's African? And he makes the point that colonialism has created a mentality where a lot of us think that, well, what do we need with this past, this African past? And so what Dr. Obenga, what Dr. Cheikh Anta Diop were putting forward as Kemet or Egypt being the central civilization of Africa and for Africans throughout the world is the model for freeing us from the Western model. And he makes the point that war and destruction have been the basic features of the Western model. And we can see it with the United States rising in World War II and declining in 27 years because they invested their future in war. And we can see it now with America running out of Afghanistan. An unjust, but also a stupid war. That's a country that nobody, not even Genghis Khan, could conquer Afghanistan. And he conquered most of the world because the geography and the people will stop you. So he's saying that we should build up a civilizational model that is not out to hurt other people, but is to build up Africa and African people globally. And I should add, my little contribution to this is that the Chinese model has enabled them to grow because it fits their ethos. And their ethos is Li, L-I, order. That's the Chinese model, order. And it's a just order. And their leaders don't always follow a just order. Confucianism follows that. Kemet has an ethos, and we won't go into this today, but it's the ethos of Ma'at. And that pervades all African people. The African in America, the mother, when she's raising a child, her main concern that this be a good child. And they're teaching ethics. And this is the basic thing that's central to African people. So in raising up the model of Kemet as a central civilization for Africa and drawing from other civilizations as well, he's also going into the deep structure of a people. That is their ethos, the way they carry themselves, their ontology, their sense of being. Kemet holds that at its best. And Kemet's not always perfect. It had its high points and low points. But the key point is, this is the central project. So the key point for our viewers to get and our people to get is, the past is in your present. It's in your DNA. You carry your past. And when you're conscious of it and value it, then you can progress, because you can see ahead, because you have a great sense of where you come from. So this is the project that Dr. Theophile Obenga, Dr. Cheikh Anta Diop, and many others have been on. This is a project for reconstruction of society and power and strengthening our humanity. Do you have anything else to add to this, Obinga?
No, it's your sermon is very beautiful and very clear. So,
I'm trying to summarize you. I make sure that Obinga speaks 10 languages, but English is not his first language. I can understand everything he says, and any of you that have trouble, most of you don't speak English. You all speak Ebonics, which is a Niger-Congo Bantu language. And so if you had trouble understanding somebody, just think of what somebody thinks when they hear you. Like we had the sister Brianna on a couple of weeks ago, and she was apologizing for splitting her verbs. She shouldn't apologize. That's the African in her. You know what I mean? So,
thank you. You don't speak Ebonics. That's good.
Now, so you, Cheikh Anta Diop, and others have been on this quest to establish Kemet or Egypt as a central civilization, and of course, as a Black civilization. Now, in the United States, we've had a number of scholars, and in Africa and in the world, who have had this same pursuit. So you had Martin R. Delaney, who was a 19th century intellectual, doctor, highest ranking person in the Civil War, a major, and someone who played a major role in putting pressure on Abraham Lincoln to issue the Emancipation Proclamation. So he was one of the most brilliant minds that we produced in the 19th century. And he was talking about the Blackness of Egypt, the centrality of Ethiopia, and of African civilization in the world. And you had Edward Wilmot Blyden, who was a Caribbean scholar whose greatest work is African Life and Customs, who also looked at the need for African nations to be built on African culture. And by the way, Garvey read him in the museum or in the National Library in London. And Drusilla Dungy Houston, who wrote some very important books, including this one, The Wonderful Ethiopians of the Ancient Kushite Empire. And she was looking at classical European sources to show what they all argued, that these civilizations were African or Black. And there were many others, Dr. Chancellor Williams, Professor John Henry Clark, Dr. Jacob Carruthers, and other scholars. So they were on this path, and then inspired by the path that you and Dr. Cheikh Anta Diop took around the centrality of Kemet and its Blackness. And so first, were you and Dr. Diop aware of some of these scholars and others as well who are on this path as you were doing your work? Can you hear me, Obenga?
Yes, very well.
Yeah, were you aware of some of these scholars, Delaney or John Jackson or Chancellor Williams or others, while you were doing this work challenging Europeans who were writing us out of Egypt and out of Africa as founders of civilization? Were you aware of some of these?
Yes, yes, of course. When I didn't know that before coming to United States. I didn't know too much, to be frank, because most of books are difficult to find in France or in Congo. So when I came to United States, I opened my mind to African-American culture, literature, civilization, what they did, music, something like that, and chiefly their writing. So I came to read almost all of them, and have books. Even now in Congo, I have some books from Harlem Renaissance, for example, le Guillaume Heinz, Home to Harlem. Or I have many books, you see. Even when you speak about Delany, I have a book on the origin of color. I have 2 books, Destiny and this one. Even Hudson, Miseducation of the Negro, very beautiful, powerful books. And but I love in all them history. I love this of Nat Turner because it was yes, it was written by Apter. He did his PhD on that. So I read the trials. I did when he escaped, when they find him, they put him in jail. Things like that. So it's a very, very deep book, very powerful book. So I love that. Even the sister Anima Rimba also led the second broken. It's beautiful. We must keep a little chain. I read, of course, Jake Carita. I said to his place with his beautiful wife, Ife. We stayed there. We did some nature there too. I lectured at the institute of his institute. And we have John Harry Clark in New York with Ben Buchanan. They helped me to teach in New York, to taught in New York also. Jeffries, I went to his class with Professor Small. I taught there too with his Jeffries, with a beautiful wife who was a beautiful, strong, very strong sister. So I know, thanks to them, you see, thanks to them, I traveled too in Texas, Houston, everywhere. So they helped me to know, to build my own spirit and to come to know the beautiful, beautiful literature of African people, Dr. Karenga, Dr. even Cornel West, Asante. I read all these people, many books. So it's very strong, strong, strong. The question that we must translate these things even in French, in Spain, or something like that, because it's more powerful than we did in French area. We did just a negritude, Senghor, chiefly. But we don't cry always on our skin, on our color, on our business. Okay, we are black. What you want to do is like that. But it's not the question. The question, what you do with your life. How do you spend your life? What you do at the end with your life, what you did with your life. This is the question. The question is not what they want us to complain always, so they will be free to take our goods. You complain. No, we don't. Now we don't complain. We know what we do. We must be powerful. So we must escape to the future slavery. So we must be free forever. This is our question now, our struggle. To be free forever, and like in humanity, to belong, like we don't ask permission to somebody else. We do what we want to do for like we believe that is good for us and for humanity. It must be like that now. And this starts with United States chiefly, because when the jazz, we build the jazz, it's them black people in the United States. I'm Louis Armstrong, Miles Davis, Coltrane, they build the Parker, they build the jazz. It was not, it's a beautiful music. It belongs to humanity now, you see. It belongs to everywhere. Even the new generation, Bob Marley, the Deep, it belongs to the humanity. Everything we do for humanity. Even when we play basketball, it's always for humanity. We play football, it's always for humanity. Yes, everywhere. Pele, Michael Jordan, Tyson, all this. We know all this story because it makes us proud too. Ali Muhammad Ali, we make is to do something, not to complain. Is to do like everyone can do. He has a talent to do that. He has the faculties. He has a will to do what he wants to do for him and for humanity. We must do this thing now. We must build African, make African powerful country. So we must be proud of that. Enjoy the beauty of Africa. We have all mountains. We have all beautiful rivers. We have the forest, the landscape, the best one in the world. We have the seashore. We have everything in it. So we have the sun permanent. So we don't enjoy them. We have the seashore. We have everything. So what we must enjoy the life, the nature, and the beauty also of human beings.
Dr. Obenga has just said, I think you got it, just to make sure you got it, that his real knowledge of the contribution of African-American scholars towards the centrality of Kemet as a central civilization and as Black and African history in general came especially when he came to the United States and began to interact and read. And I find it interesting that one of the things that he found most enlightening was the trial records of Nat Turner. And that hits my heart because he's dealing with the most successful slave rebellion in the United States. And he was talking about how he interacted with the various scholars in this country and their work and became familiar with their work. And I should say that's the same thing we need to do. Just as our writings need to be put in other languages, the writings, for example, the majority of your works are in French, and you've had some translated. One of your greatest works, Philosophy During the Pharaonic Period, which is absolutely magnificent. It's a work of beauty. And it's interesting that Dr. Obenga, when he covers philosophy, doesn't limit it to what most people who are into philosophy limit it to, because he includes mathematics and science and goes into depth. But the philosophy of the moral ethics of African people, it's pure beauty. So that just as our works need to be better known in other languages, the works of African people, whether it's French or whether it's traditional African languages, we need to translate those so that we're familiar with them. And one of the things that I observed about you, Obinga, is that you're very perceptive. And there was a comment you made that showed me your perception and depth of African-American culture. And we were having a conversation one day, and you talked about Miles Davis. And I know some people who will say, Miles is hard to understand, and then others who will say, oh, he's beautiful, because with the first sound of his trumpet, you know it's Miles. And Miles had a lyrical sound. It was magnificently beautiful. But you made this observation, which showed me that you check people out. And I'm talking about the culture of people. You said, oh, the space in his music. You remember that?
Yes.
Yes. That showed great depth, because most people who are coming from outside looking at another culture, if they were African, each culture has its own spin, they don't get it. And he got something in depth because Miles was not a person that played for a long period of time. He didn't have the gift and he didn't need it. His was lyrical, beautiful. So he would do it in short staccato riffs and like Kind of Blue. When you hear that, boom. And then you would hear John Coltrane going on for an hour and a half. And Miles had no trouble with that because he could see that the length of Coltrane and the beauty of his playing complemented the space, the shortness of Miles. And it allowed Coltrane to become the genius that he became. He gave him the space. So Dr. Obenga's got some insight into our culture, and this interchange was important. I just wanted to share one thing in terms of the scholars who took on the same mission that you and Dr. Cheikh Anta Diop have carried out so well and who we regard as the leaders of this movement. And I just want to focus on one, and that's Chancellor Williams, who was born in 1898 and lived until 1992. And he was an apprentice under William Leo Hansberry. He had been a student of William Leo Hansberry at Howard, and he received his master's degree in history at Howard under the teachings of William Leo Hansberry. William Leo Hansberry is the greatest African-American historian of his time. Yeah. He had done more research prior to Chancellor Williams than anyone else. And he came up with 2 books, one of which is called Africans and African Africans as Seen by Classical Writers.
Yes.
And also Pillars of Ethiopian History. These are actually lecture notes that scholars put together after he died, because he didn't have time to write. He was in the field doing research in Oxford, at various places. He got a master's. He never got a PhD because he challenged Reisner and others at Harvard over the issue of the blackness of Kemet, because they were arguing that Kemet wasn't black. And he simply cited Herodotus and other Greek historians that shut Reisner up. And then when he went to Oxford, he challenged the major scholars on ancient Egypt there, and again came forward with his evidence to prove that the civilization was black. And so they said later they couldn't give him a PhD because they had no one with the skills to measure his work. Now that's the reason why you give someone a PhD, because they have exceeded in their skills. And so you can learn from them. That's not the reason they didn't give him a PhD, because he was in the process of helping to create the school that you all succeeded in creating that would overthrow this idea that Africa did not give birth to great civilization and the greatest in the world, Kemet. So he was the person that was the most influential person on Chancellor Williams. I want to focus on something about Chancellor Williams that most people don't focus on. We know of his work, Destruction of Black Civilization, and it's a great work. It's a classic. It's a great work. But I consider, John Henry Clark considered, and anyone that reads this, I think will see that his greatest work was The Rebirth of African Civilization. And this really speaks to the work of Dr. Cheikh Anta Diop and Dr. Theophile Obenga, because of the practical nature of the work that they're doing to rebuild Africa and African power. Dr. Cheikh Anta Diop's book, Towards a Federated African Nation, around Pan-African unity, is around the practical way of building African unity. So I just wanted to focus a little bit on what's not known about Chancellor Williams or his work on Africa. This work preceded the book on Destruction of Black Civilization. And this was done in the 50s. He lived in Africa between 1950 and 1954. And he mortgaged his house. Just as you built a university on your own money, he did this research on his own money. He would have liked to have received funding, but no major funder would fund this research because he was asking one question in his work in Africa, and it was in Ghana. What did Africans need to do to build just societies once they're free of colonialism? And this was during Ghana's independence period, and Kwame Nkrumah was supporting his research in Ghana. And so what he did is he did research where they interviewed 3,000 Ghanaians across Ghana, coming from many different language groups. And he couldn't do that unless he had the help of the Africans there. So 127 Africans volunteered their time to help him in this research. And this included scholars, some of whom took off their whole university vacation for 3 months and put all their time into this, and others who put a full 2 years in the evenings after work. And this was under colonialism. They were doing this work. And so they, after 2 years, Chancellor Williams came into Ghana, and they had done quite a bit of research, but what he didn't like is they did not research the Africans who were traditional, who couldn't read and write, but who had great wisdom. And so he saw that the interviews included a great number of them, and that meant oral interviews, a lot of work. And so out of this came his book, The Rebirth of African Civilization. I just want to say 2 things about his research. He went to Africa to ask Africans what they wanted for their independence. He didn't go there putting his ideas out. And the most important conclusion, because he covered many different areas, the most important conclusion was this, and this is one that it's too bad Nkrumah didn't follow, because Nkrumah did support his research, but didn't follow this. This is what the people said on economics. This was a key thing. They didn't want capitalism, where a few people get rich and the majority are poor. They didn't want Marxism. They wanted, these were their terms, I quote, cooperative economics. In other words, they wanted communal economics that they already practiced at the village level, where no one owned the air, land, or water. Everyone had a say-so in the development, and where, based on your labor, your wealth would come out, and where the government did not interfere with the basic economic decisions you made at the local level. This is how African economies had worked for over 100,000 years. And then they said, we want our leaders to come to us with their proposals and consult us. And after they get our opinions, go back and implement your policies. So they wanted African democracy based on consensus, and they wanted a sharing economy. And I think if you go to Africa today and you ask the people what they want, I bet you this is one of the things they'll come up with. What do you think of that, Dr. Obenga?
Yes, you're completely right. Because we must find our own way indeed. In politics, what they call democracy. Democracy is not everywhere the same democracy with the same rules. We must find our own way in economics too, how to share, to distribute the good for the nation, for all people, and so on. If we don't do that our own way, we must copy. Imitation, we never succeed. You don't do things good by imitation, by copy, even what you don't know, copy just for, because it's like that. It's sent by the World Bank, by the FMI, something like that. So we must do our own business the way we think it is good for us, the way we believe that is good for us, the way that we must believe that is good for humanity. You see, it's time to do that. It's time to be free, to do what you want to do, to not to be under the tutelage of somebody else, under the colonization. Is over. We must finish this kind of stage of humanity and then make progress in civilization to change. But the Western has no ability to control for centuries every people. They don't have this right. Why they want to control African people for centuries and centuries and centuries, too much. Now it depends on us now. We have enough people who can think. We have enough leadership. We have enough, the country is still there. We have all good, so we must do what we can do. The best we can do. We have everything now. We have freedom, we have independence, we have many things like that. So it's time to free our mind and to do what we have to do, like everyone on this earth. It's like this is the main goal. It's our destiny. You don't make your destiny between the hands of your enemy. It doesn't fit like that. So it's good to do show like you are trying to do, not to explain, more simply, to convince, to make clear things. I love that. And it's a pedagogy. It's good to do what you are doing, Professor Dr. T'Shaka. It's very good to do that, to make this kind of pedagogy in lay level. So I agree with that. You see, and congratulations.
So Dr. Obenga is saying that he agrees that we have to use our own methods, our own pedagogy, our own way of learning. And one of those ways is to go to our people and ask them for some answers. Like your university is dealing with geography. Our people have the longest history of growing crops. And we know the best ways to grow under different soil conditions. We don't need the French coming in telling us to grow something that grew in France that won't grow in Africa and doesn't meet our dietary needs, so that's what Dr. Obenga is saying. We need our own methods, and one of our best methods is our people. So in this country, the most successful movements are the ones that went to the people and asked them, what do you want? As opposed to going them and telling them what they want. Now, Dr. Obenga, I wanted to spend a brief period of time on your education, in part because I want to use this for people to better understand how the colonial system impacted our education, and then how we got out of that particular colonial model. And in interviewing you over 20 years ago, I interviewed you for the book that I'm finishing now on Seba, on bringing the light that is within out, which you've explained so well in your writings and really helped me in my work. You discussed the impact of the French educational system on you as a child, and then as you grew up and went to the university. And I want to do this because we're caught in this bind in the US as well. I was, many of us, and some of us are not, because some of us come out of a Black culture here and have been less assimilated, but some of us have been, and the more highly educated, the more so. So how did you see your experience in French education as you went to missionary school and as a child, and then university?
Yes, thank you, Professor T'Shaka. When in the French colonization, they teach you their history, even their geography. In Congo, they teach you French geography, French history, French literature, something like that. So you don't know too much about yourself. And then when you go to university in France also, they teach their own business, their language, their history, their revolution, their culture, their antiquities, their philosophy, their religion. You believe that is like that. And they teach you to go back to teach the high school. This is the job. You go, they teach you, and then when you finish, you go back to teach the high school. You prepare the young people to do the same. It was like that, our education. We didn't know too much about ourselves. I didn't know my own history, African history, something like that, what we came from, where Kemet is what, we didn't know. So when I was a student, one of my friends from Cameroon, he tried me to, did you read this book by Cheikh Anta Diop? I said, no, I don't know him, I didn't read. I said, try to read. I said, it's too huge. I don't have time for this, that. I must do Hegel. I must study Hegel. So I don't have time to do these things. He said, try read, and he gave me back my book. I said, okay. So when I finished my work on Hegel, and I said, look, because I give him the book tomorrow, I must read that tonight. So I read, I didn't sleep. I read all the book all night. I didn't sleep. So this lecture, I didn't know Cheikh Anta Diop physically. This lecture opened definitively my mind. I said, look, so I can control what Cheikh Anta Diop say in Greek or in Latin. I can control because I know the language. what he said about the Kemet, I didn't know, because you need hieroglyphics, you need language. So I didn't know. So I decided to do some Arabic. And I didn't stay too long for Arabic. I said maybe 2 semesters, something like that. I bet Medunature, I must to know really. I must to know because the key, according to the book of Cheikh Anta. So I try to give my own education by myself, my own. So people say that Obenga, he made confusion, didn't finish. Now we do paleontology. Now he finished. Now he go to linguistics. Now he's in a Kemet, something like that. So there's some friends that criticize me, but I didn't care because I knew that is the goal to go, the way to go. So I did I give myself my education to Sorbonne for something like for history, for Medunature, went to the College of France, try to not to discuss with people, just to learn, because when you discuss, they provoke you. So what you came to do here, but I didn't go to the debate. I want just to know. So when I know, I believe that I know enough, and one day I write to Cheikh Anta Diop in Dakar. I didn't know him. I said, Cheikh Anta Diop, you said that in your book, Kemet is like this, black. In fact, you are right, because when you read when you write the word Kemet in Medunature, this is the good explanation. It's Kemet country because the hieroglyphs are like this, like this. So he replied me. He said that the best you can do is just to learn Medunature. One line of his letter. I receive your letter, but I tell you the thing you can do, the best you can do, you do just Medunature. So I was for me like a kind of a Bible. I said, oh my God. So I make more effort. I do Medunature. I went to British Museum in London to see what's going on in the College of France, in Le Louvre in Paris, are beautiful. I travel, go to Rome, Turin, Berlin. They have beautiful museum there chiefly. And they travel in France everywhere to do Medunature really seriously. And even to get one diploma in Sorbonne on Medunature. But I didn't care too much about diploma. I want just to know. So now when I know, but now I see that what they was doing was very fake. They say it's like this, it's like this. They lie because it's not like this. When you know, you can disorder the word is everything, even chiefly the language. It's an African, Medunature is African language. It's an old African language. There is no doubt about that. So this is why I study too much, and I try to do like Cheikh Anta Diop. Indeed, he's a physicist, a chemist, he's philosopher, he's historian, he's linguistic, he do philosophy, do many things also. Cheikh Anta Diop even told me one day he was doing also boxing when he was young. He went to the ring to do some boxing. Cheikh Anta Diop, he said you must do everything, including some boxing, because sometimes the fight became a physical fight. He told me that. Yes, so this is why I study, and I don't regret that. It was beautiful to do this kind of, to open my mind, and not to follow colonization education. Because many of us, we follow colonization education. It's good, you know, but it is to close your mind indeed. It doesn't open your mind because everything is in French. You don't know English, you don't know German, you don't do many things, Spanish, something like that. They teach you just that business, you see. And the literature, you must know just French literature. You don't do many things in British, even Shakespeare, we didn't know too much, but you know that by yourself after, even Goethe, something like that. It's very, close your mind, French education. If everything must be French, that's all. You close your very mind, you don't open your mind, you see. They don't teach, even linguistics, they teach description of language in university, but comparative linguistics, they don't teach in university. You must go some institutes, some schools. But in university, they teach how to describe a language. That's easy. But comparative, no, they say we don't teach that. You see, it's a very restrictive mind. This is why I did myself at the prehistory, paleontology, something like that. I went to see the school, the fossils, something like that. I did my own education. Thanks to Cheikh Anta Diop, you see. And Sometimes they cut you, they found the scholarship, they don't give you scholarship no more. So I just, okay, fine. Now you can have some jobs, something like that. You don't need the scholarship. So because they say that you finish, don't go back home. You must come back home. I say, no, it's not enough. Let me do again some things. They say, no. Those are, they cut you scholarship. But since you are strong, you can work. So it was like that, and it was very difficult. They don't open, they close your mind. This kind of education is very bad. They close your mind. This is a French education. Everything you do is just French, that's all. It's a very strange education. Now I open my mind according to Cheikh Anta Diop model of learning. And now I try also to help some students to open their mind also. Even when I was in the United States, I bring some students not to do just Black studies, to do Greek studies, philosophy studies. Even it's not a question of like, you have love. You must know. If you don't like, you must know. It's not to love them, no, it's meant to know. So when we have a debate, you are strong also, because the debate is still there. But if you don't know, no, you must know. I know something I know, but I don't like that necessarily. I know just to know, because I need that for debate. It must be like that. So it was very beautiful. And Sheffield United States, when I was there in San Francisco, I was always going to the Berkeley Library. They have a beautiful library there in Berkeley. Very beautiful library. So I spend some time night over there too. To read, make photocopies, to do photocopy, to do everything, because you have an opportunity. We don't have this kind of opportunities in France, you see. So I spend time in, not just in school, in a campus, but in libraries, museum, library, to see these things. So it was a very beautiful experience.
So that's a beautiful way you described it. The French education closed your mind, and working with Dr. Cheikh Anta Diop as his apprentice, it opened your mind.
Yes.
I think before you had made the comment that when I interviewed you, you made the comment that you learned method from the French, which you see the need to replace. You've made the point that we have a contradiction, African-centered information and a European method. So you see the need to break out of their method. But then you said when you read Negro Nations and Culture, which is the book you read on Diop, you went through and read all the citations because he didn't have a bibliography. And then you went and got the books. And
Yes.
then you said, what you just explained, you then figured out what Diop, you thought Diop knew, and that you needed to know so that you could master his thinking. And so paleontology was one. What is paleontology? Describe that to people.
The paleontologist to study beings, living beings, died very long time ago. So with that, we just have some kind of very small pieces, fragment, like a teeth, like a piece of a bone, something like that. From there, you must try to build the whole skeleton and to see what kind of species, something like that. So you must make excavation, and you must find some schools. Chiefly, we find most of the schools, but not even completely. Because of the destruction, like they found Lucy, like they found l'homme de Toumaï in Chad, there are 7 million of years. So Africa is the cradle of humanity, because these old fossils are very, very vestige, are very, very the most ancient in the world, and they're human vestige. So this is why we say Africa is the cradle of humanity. For that, this paleontology teach you, and also paleobotanic. All the vegetation, because the climate change, the vegetation change also, the crops change. So we must know how they live, how they did, how they try to struggle with the nature to fit with their environment. And then is basically that to see the evolution of the mankind, how they get the fire, how to make plants, animals, domestic animals, the script, the writing, something like that. All this invention, you said that in quaternary studies, that in prehistory, is linked with paleontology. So it's a very beautiful study. I love that. And because you can see skulls, there's a vacation, you do things, it's very beautiful. And you see even the ancient climate, something like that. And it's the past, you can see the evolution. Now we don't make more evolution anatomically, our body doesn't change too much, but our brain will make a lot of change in the future because the evolution is still there. It will be more scientific, technological, cultural evolution. We make because we grow always, even though our body is almost finished for evolution, but our brain will start to give its own power. It's a very beautiful computer. It's not even. We need to make progress in the future. This paleontology, to the study of ancient skeleton, I will say.
Now, I hope people get what Dr. Obenga is describing, because under the French education, he was getting everything French, number one, and it was classroom education. But under this thing that he underwent, where he's trying to master Diop, he's undergoing apprenticeship. Did you see this as apprenticeship when you were going through it?
No, it was salvation.
Right. Yeah, but it's interesting because the path you're on is the same path that the Bambara described when they describe a novice who's apprenticing under a master, or the Dogon described, or John Henry Clark experienced when he underwent apprenticeship under his master. Mine too. Mine was under the Dogon system. And then it was also under the person you see in the back, Amilcar Cabral and Cheikh Anta Diop, two cradle theory. Those were the things that I was, apprenticing under, but I didn't see it that way either. I saw it as, these are things that I needed to know. But
exactly
what you're describing is what happens under traditional African apprenticeship. And what people should get is Dr. Obenga was doing study outside the classroom. What does this mean? Lifelong study, paleontology, linguistics, knowing the history of ancient Kemet. This is lifelong, whereas university education is 4 years, or in the case of Dr. Theophile Obenga's experience, 10 years to get a PhD. That's why the French are in such bad shape. They take so long to do stuff. But the key thing is, when you come through it, you've come through something. But Obinga under Cheikh Anta Diop, it's life. It's your life. You made a comment to me when I was interviewing you before. You said, I found my way with Dr. Cheikh Anta Diop. What did you mean by that?
Yes, I found my way because even now, you see, I still follow this way because what you can do more to know yourself is a crucial business. And to try to help for your people to be strong, to be free is the main goal in life. So this is why I say I find my way, I find integrity, I find dignity, I find the work we must do something with your life. This is from Cheikh Anta Diop. I didn't know that before. Before we go to student, you have a job, you teach, you have a good life, something like that. It was like that. I believe that you are, when more you know, more you are in a mission. You must accomplish your mission. I didn't know that before. Thanks to Cheikh Anta Diop, and you do that with love. You see, it's not punishment; it's a love for me. I do that with enthusiasm, with love, with something like that. So it was good to do that, and I meet also scholars. You see, because they don't do that in a classroom, classics. You go to the institute, you find all scholars. They don't mind. You are black, white, they don't care. Even what they care is knowledge too. So they're good people there. So you must study with them. They help you ask questions. It's different from university. The institute are very different. So you can discuss, you can talk, you can ask questions, something like that. The education is very different. And you find good people. Sometimes we became friends. All my friends, the Professor Jean Leclan, is the great Egyptologist in France. He died. He was my best friend. He was my teacher, mentor, but my friend also at the same time went to his place, invited me to dinner in Paris, something like that. I know many things about him. It was friendship too, see? Some people are good, even in the linguistics, Benveniste, something like that, even Menard in the Pascal literature. I know his family, his wife, his family, his landscape village. I know them, his family, I know. So they help you too. You see, they say this guy is, you change from university, so they know, they help you too. That's your question, become friend with them, you see. What they say, Obenga is against, I'm not against. I defend my freedom and my ideas, but most of my friends are the best scholar in France, Jean Menard, Jean Leclan, it's the Benveniste, the best friend, they're the best scholar in the world. They're member of the Institute, it's the Academy of France. They're the best member there, you see. So I'm not against somebody because I defend my ideas. I fight these people, they fight us, they're good. When you reply, you become bad. When they insult to you, they're good, they're doing good job. And they don't say you don't know something like so, that's good for them. When you try to reply, even to beat them, even in their Greek, you beat them. Now they say you are a racist, you don't respect the people, something like that. I say, it starts from you. If you respect me, I respect you. If you fight me, I fight you too. And you are very weak because you give the impression that you know. Now I'm master, I know I can teach you this business. I know very well. It's because it takes time. I ask people, you may say with humility, but you know. So now even they're careful now. They don't joke too much now in France. Because in Paris, every week they criticize Cheikh Anta Diop, criticize Obenga, they want to have their own some black people, like some Negro plantation, something like that. They're good people, they don't do well, they do well, something like that. But we don't do that. We don't do that. We cannot sell Africa for any price. No, it's impossible that.
What Dr. Obenga is describing here is the relationship between him, Cheikh Anta Diop, him and other African and African-American scholars. And it's a relationship of love because they're on a mission. They're on a mission to help Africa, African people, and humanity. And it's total. He's talking about John Henry Clark.
Yes, it was a relationship of love. Yeah, even John Henry Clark, they give me money because scholarship, they give Cheikh Anta the same money in UNESCO, but Cheikh Anta give me his own money again. I say, no, we have the same, they give you a member. They say, no, I'll do what I'm doing, take. You see, I didn't ask, but he gave me, I have two per diem for Cheikh Anta Diop, and from UNESCO, I have 2 per diem, and Cheikh is free. And most of them invite me again to the restaurant with his own money. He invite me. Is more than family. He's a very close family. Very close. Very. Is blood. I will say. It's blood family. Business. You see. And because why he did that? He's strong. He knows why he did that. He's not a child. He knows what he's doing. He started to help me the best he can. He said, I do what I want to help you because it must be like that from generation to generation. What I do, you will do to some people. So it's like that. See? And what you did to Cheikh Anta Diop, everybody did to me, Dr. Finch, even Essa, Eliab, something, all Jean-Henri Clark, Jack Ben Buchanan, Jeffries, with Rosalind in some small, all this became family. It became question of family, T'Shaka. It was, I said to you, format, it's a family. I didn't pay no fees, nothing. We didn't ask the people. Some people ask money because you make dirty. When you leave too, they clean for you. You see, it's a family. Make that in Africa and what we call family. It's not friendship, not friend, not we know each other, we respect because we are scholar. No. My vision is blood. Because not everybody in the street are my friend, something like this. My family is like that. It's like that. Where all these people are family.
And even though you didn't see this as apprenticeship, that's what it was. And what happened is you two met because your cause met, meaning your purpose, your destiny. Because when you read Negro Nations and Culture,
yes, it was for me kind of light, huh?
Yeah.
The lightning, the thunder.
Yeah.
Was something like, yes, I didn't believe that I was my God. Cheikh Anta, is he alive? Is dead or what? I didn't know. So he's there, he's not alive. I must meet him one day. It was very, very powerful. This is why everybody attacking everybody. Say, yeah, you love Cheikh Anta Diop, when they criticize him. I say, people criticize, they don't know more than him. They don't know, that's all. I'm not afraid. I must know by myself. And then when I knew by myself, Cheikh was right. In Kemet, it's written in Kemet, so there is no mistake. It's written in Greek. I know it's like that. When they say Egyptian, Herodotus was there. Herodotus was there in Kemet. He visited the Delta, Memphis, Heliopolis, Thebes, something like that. He went to the market, to the church, to the temple. He said that Egyptian people, these people from Kemet, Egyptian people, they're Melanes, Melancroes, and Ulitriques. That means their skin, croix, their skin is black, melanin, are black, and their hair is kinky, is Ulitriques, like this. So he saw that. When he said that, if he said the contrary, I went to Kemet. I'm a white from Asia, Ionia, Asia Minor Asia, and Kemet are white, and their nose is like this, their skin is like this, their hair is like this. There will be no discussion because he is so with his eyes, no discussion. But when he said they're black, their skin, their hair is kinky, they say, no, he made a mistake. It wasn't a mistake, it was old guy. But this is not difficult to see. Even when we go to seashore, when in Paris, we go to seashore.
Yes, like Mary Lefkowitz saying that they were dark rather than black.
You see that? Yeah, there is no discussion when they say, now they want to discuss. In the Greek, the word black, give me two words in Greek which mean black. This is just one word, not two kind of black. Black means dark. Black. There is no word like that. It's a melas meaning black, 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 black. Pure. Full stop. There's not, they start to mix black, is brown. Brown in the Greek exists. Dark even exists. Obscure exists. Not the black. Black is different. Is dark, and you find that in color too. When they try to say give me the black color, they don't mean brown. They don't mean yellow. You see, they make confusion something there because they believe that now we know all of these things. Even when they say, even their translation are no good sometimes. When Plato said that, they call this bird ibis. No, in fact, to translate it, they don't translate like that because there is a word there, preposition, who try to change the meaning. We must translate. They call precisely this bird ibis. They call this precisely. They don't translate precisely. They say that they call this bird ibis. No, it's bad translation. They don't even know their own ancestral language. Now, what we do, Professor Oba T'Shaka, is to know, because we must know these things, because we must be in the side of math, not to lie, to math, to do the truth. We must do for scholarship, for humanity, for help people, not for lie. You see, we must do like this. So it's our job. is not to please these people. They want, I don't do for to please them. We do for help African people. We have too many, too long suffer. So we must change the goal. We must do good things now. It's not against somebody else. We are friendship, we are humanity. We are not, it's a friendship. We are not against somebody. We are brothers. So it's like that. But we must do now what we want to do according to our own vision, our goals to make Africa a powerful country, take advantage of our goods, and try to build a good condition of life for people. That's all. You see?
Dr. Obenga here is explaining that when he read Negro Nations and Culture, he saw how Dr. Cheikh Anta Diop was being attacked by Western scholars and by probably other brainwashed people. But he didn't care because he looked at the facts and he saw that Diop was right. And so he's making the point that when he went, because he reads Greek, he reads these languages, he knew that when Herodotus described the Egyptians as Black, he's describing their color. And he's saying that that is clear. And so he followed Diop because he knew that Diop was right. He makes the point that when they went to UNESCO, and we're going to come back to UNESCO in a minute, that Diop is paid a fee. We call it an honorarium. He split it with Obenga because the point he's making is that they are brothers. They are engaged in holy work for our people. And so sharing as family. And of course, he brought Obenga because he's his best apprentice. He didn't just bring anybody. We'll come back to UNESCO in a minute. Now, there's a thing you need to get. When Dr. Obenga is going through studying paleontology, when he is going through studying linguistics, especially Medu-Neter, when he's going through studying African history, he's not taking formal courses to get a degree. He's doing this for the course of his life. This is his life mission. And this is also because Diop, when he meets him, Diop makes it clear he does not want tutelage. He does not want somebody who'll be imitating him. He wants a partner. And so in mastering these skills, this is called synthesis. He's bringing together different disciplines, paleontology, linguistics, history, and many other things to master his work with Diop, but it is also his course in life. And we call that in African-American culture improvisation. In the Dogon culture, it's called boloso, synthesis, where you bring things together. Because when you bring these together, you're going to come up with your own ideas. And so by the time he reaches Dr. Cheikh Anta Diop, he is already standing on his own 2 feet. And he's someone that can be a partner with Dr. Cheikh Anta Diop. This is what you need to get straight here. This is an apprenticeship system. The Bambara used it, the Dogon used it, African Americans use it, John Henry Clark went through it, I've gone through it. And though you're not conscious of it, because when I went through it, I wasn't conscious of it, that's what you're doing. So when you went under the apprenticeship of Dr. Cheikh Anta Diop, describe what Diop was like. What kind of person was he? His human qualities. Describe his scholarly gifts. Describe just his gifts as a father, a husband, as a friend.
Diop, Cheikh Anta Diop was, so he want to listen when I was trying to explain. You know that I was not very strong, I did not too much, but he listened. I explain my business, and he say, yes, but I will ask you to do this. You will find, he got you. So when you find, I was young also when talk to discuss, to know, to be proud, to say I know also, to show that I know. But Cheikh was very humble. He said, look, you must learn this, you must see this, you see. I said, I didn't see that. They said, yes, you must go and see. So it was very good at the same time, very good. I will say good in English, I don't know the meaning, but very good character, good person, very attentive, careful about you. He cared about you more about himself. Did you eat? Did you feel well? How are you? Your family? What is going on? He's very careful. You must be well. You feed. He asks you, do you know this person? Yeah. So is your friend? No. See, he's very careful. What they call attentive in French. So he's very careful. We take care of you. That's very goodness. And Sheikh never try to even to be to talk bad against somebody else. I never, even his enemy, never. Sometimes I'm mad. I say, Sheikh, look, this guy said that. He said, look, I will struggle not against somebody. I will struggle to help Africa. It's not to fight by. They say what they want is not my business. What they need is Africa, is our business. We must do for Africa, not for me. They fight me, they criticize me. They let them do their job. But we must not reply every day. We must do for Africa. This is our mission. Don't miss your mission. Your mission is to reply always, is to do for African people. So it gives the good orientation, the good direction. You see, he was, I will say, holy, like they say in the church sometimes, holy person. It's very holy. H-O-L-Y, like a purity. Yes, purity. Like very mad, really. He was a pure guy. Our character was very different. I'm more bloody character. Sheikh, no, never. He never complain. Me, I complain usually. He never complain. He never, very high level, spiritual, intellectual, spiritual, very high level. This may be from a Quran people, because he's a Murid guy. His family is a Murid. They learn ethics when they're young. They do the Quranic school, something like that. They maybe come from there. You see, try to be respectful, to help life. Sheikh was like that. See, and see, this is why I was not afraid to tell him to discuss. You see, even good things he listen. Even bad things he listen always. Even I was say this is a mistake. You know that it was a mistake, but he say he doesn't complain. He try to help you. We're in Cairo. We went to visit one monument. So people went already in a boat. So me and Cheikh Anta were late. So Cheikh Anta Diop is a strong guy. He ran away to go to the boat. Me, I came after. I just take my place in the boat. Cheikh Anta Diop publicly tell me, you must apologize, you are late. Publicly, to the people, to the French people, these Egyptologist people. You must apologize. You are late. They wait for us. Say, excuse me. You must say that. I didn't believe. Of course, I say I'm sorry to come late. But Cheikh Anta Diop did the joke. I said, look, do these things, because education must shape not only your spirit, your intellect, but shape your beingness, your being. It must shape also your being. You must being, this African value, the way you are in life, in existence. You must apologize. So many things like that. Cheikh, it was very, yes, very strange. I will say strange in a good. That's a rare person. You don't find them usually. Like kind of John Henry Clark, something like that. People who did many things. They never. They're above many things. This was difficult to say. But he was really above. People didn't understand very Cheikh Anta Diop. He was in his life. He was with us like this. but he was kind of an angel. He was very above humanity, above common people. He was with values, with math, I believe. So it was always a pleasure. I was very peaceful to stay with him. When I was there, I was a real peace, deep peace. I was very kind of fulfillment, they will say in English, fulfillment, when I was with him. Because Sheikh himself was very full of everything, with a gentle guy. What do you say in English? Gentleman, and Sheikh like that. More than that, but people even criticize me, they say, yes, you give Sheikh and all values, it's like these human beings, why you emphasize too much, something like that. I say, look, this is my business, he say emphasize, it's me, it's not you. If you don't emphasize, it's you. Me, I emphasize because I see, I love, I saw, I live these things, so I must emphasize. You don't say with Cheikh Anta Diop, I stay with him all night, all day. Sometimes we don't sleep. Sometimes we don't sleep. We stay. He give me a meeting. Well, let's meet tomorrow by 4 o'clock. I say, okay. But from o'clock all night, we don't sleep. We make separation to verse in morning we're 7 o'clock. When I go to my house, my wife, I said to my wife, I was with Cheikh Anta Diop all night. He said, no, don't joke. Sheikh is a serious guy. He then is married to a guy. He then is a scholar. He won't stay all night, not sleep. You lie. I said, no, I don't lie. It's a serious business. It's like that. He said, no, I don't believe you. He said, believe me. So one day we met Cheikh Anta Diop, my wife. I said, I met this three. I said, ask Cheikh Anta Diop there if that day we didn't stay all night. But Cheikh Anta Diop just smiled. He just smiled. I say, ask now, Cheikh Anta Diop is there. Ask him if we didn't sleep that night. I told you, Sheikh. I say, you are afraid now. Ask him. He's there. He will tell you. And Cheikh Anta Diop didn't say anything. Just smiled. She said, like, he was so gentle. This guy. He was what they call monsieur. What you say in English, gentleman. More than that. Yeah, for me, as all virtues, for me. Maybe people that say like that. For me, as all, it's good to stay with him, with company. He talk, he have kind of fulfillment to stay around him. See, it was like that. I feel that.
Dr. Obenga here is describing what apprenticeship does and in relationships, so that the learning he was getting was informal. It was in relationship. They'd stay up all night talking. And he makes the point that Obenga makes the point that Dr. Cheikh Anta Diop had a humble personality, did not talk bad about other people, was a kind person. He described his character as holy. And you might say, oh, really? Yes, he had a noble character. John Henry Clark, when he talked about his first master, Arthur Schomburg, he would always talk about what he learned, but the most important thing he would talk about was his good character. He would talk about what a wonderful human being he was. In my experience, I apprenticed under John Henry Clark. And I remember John had been blind for a while. He had cancer. And after a while, it was in remission, and then it began to attack him. And I sent him the manuscript for the Mother Principle. He's one of two people that wrote the introduction, along with Asa Hilliard. And I knew that he was ill. And he sends me back this introduction. And when I received it, it's the first time I ever felt warmth on my stomach. It was a warm feeling. It was love. And I called up his secretary, because he had two secretaries that were retired and they volunteered, but John would always pay them. And I said, it was so wonderful for John to have done this introduction. I know he's busy. They said, tell him that. And so I got on the phone and talked to him. But it was his wonderful character, John Henry Clark. He was a master of a whole lot. And he could take something. I remember I was in Ghana when I had the vision for the Mother Principle. And then I went to Ghana, hooked up with Wade Nobles, Leonard Jeffries. They had done a trek by car. The car had broken down, and I saw them in Kumasi and got to visit with the greatest healer in Ghana, a great healer. And so the interaction that I got from there was valuable. Then I would go into the villages and look how the governments work, because I got this vision on the twin lineal thing that becomes the basis for the mother principle. So when I called John Henry Clark back, after I come back for about a month in Africa, John could summarize everything that I thought was so deep in one sentence. He could say, because I was looking at how the lineage system in Ghana was consistent with how the Ghanaians ruled themselves at the Asante Hina Santawa level. And I actually got to see justice administered in the village. And John would say, yes, what I like most about the Ghanaian system is its consistency. In one word, consistency. You know, but it was his brilliance, but his humility. And it's the qualities that you're describing in Cheikh Anta Diop. He wasn't just a genius in scholarship and a physicist as well as a historian, but a master of himself. In Kemet, they would call this Jeremiah, you know, the ideal person, or the Bombara would call it Ma, the complete person. That was his quality. You pointed out he was a boxer. So I think that's something most people don't know. Now, I want to conclude this on the important meeting that you and Cheikh Anta Diop had at UNESCO. And this was historic for many reasons. And I want you to describe what happened, why was that meeting in UNESCO so important, and what you achieved there, because this was a victory for not just you and Cheikh Anta Diop, but for African people and for humanity.
Yes, it was a very, very great problem. Cheikh Anta Diop was proposed to write a chapter on the volume 2 of the General History of Africa by UNESCO. He said that he will write his chapter on ancient Egypt with his ideas. So it's good to discuss publicly all these problems. If his ideas are no good, he will not write them. If it's good, he will write them. So it would be not Cheikh Anta Diop business. Let's discuss that. So they agree. We went to the Cairo and Aswan to discuss on February 74 with all Egyptologists from Princeton University, from Canada, Calgary University, from Oslo, Uppsala, from Sweden, from Germany, from France, 3 of them, Le Clan, Sonoron, and Vercuter, from Hungary, Kakosi, Professor Kakosi. If from Egypt too, from Sudan, Abdallah, Professor Abdallah, and from Congo, me, and from Senegal, Cheikh Anta Diop. It was a huge meeting.